Okay, so looks like I am going live on YouTube for my first podcast of 2023. I have no idea if this is working. I'm just trying. Okay, got to figure out how to mute that out. There we go. So looks like there's a little bit of a delay. I'm going to try not to watch myself doing this live because that's going to confuse me. And we don't want to confuse the speaker. All right. So I am Donna Marie Johnson of the Plant Your Seeds of Transformation podcast. I'm Coach Donna Marie at coachdonnamarie.com. But the show is at plantyourseeds.show, and you can find Plant Your Seeds of Transformation on any of the major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I forgot what they call it now. They keep changing the name, but Apple Podcasts, YouTube, of course, which is where you're seeing me now. You'll see it on YouTube first because I did not choose to put this up in the podcast platform just yet. You'll see it there later. This is my first podcast of 2023. As promised, I am actually doing this podcast. It has taken me all year to get to this. We're almost in August, but hey, better late than never. I just want to encourage those of you who haven't yet listened to previous podcast episodes for Plant Your Seeds of Transformation. Go back to plantyourseeds.show if you'd like to see the previous episodes and learn more about the people who I interviewed. I think that it will be really helpful for you. I think a lot of people gave me some really good feedback to let me know that it is the kind of stuff that can be very helpful for those of you who are seeing the title and are attracted to this. If you're a Black woman leader, you're dealing with crises and trauma now, or have recently dealt with some, and you want to kind of know how to make sense of some of it, that's a great thing to do. There's nothing wrong with getting perspective about what you've been going through. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, the perspective that I've had. This podcast, I had aimed to start it back in about probably May or April, but our family has been going through a lot for this year. And it has been very challenging, very difficult for me to want to be in the public eye and to talk. But I've been sharing a little bit on my private personal Instagram about what's been going on with our family. If that's something that you want to check out, you'll find me at Coach Donna Marie, I think 77 on Instagram. But for the show, that Instagram is Lead Like a Queen. That is the name of the business that I run, which is the producer for this podcast show, Lead Like a Queen Coaching and Consulting LLC. A lot of names there, but if you want to just kind of look for me, Coach Donna Marie is what you can look for, coachdonnamarie.com. All right, so, and it looks like I need to change my name on the screen. Sorry about that, y'all. That's something that needs to be updated and I forgot to do it. So let's see if it'll let me do it on here while I'm talking to you. So I want to just kind of go over some things that we've talked about in the past. So one of the things we talked about in the past was the fact that women have the opportunity, many women who are go-getters like me, like you probably if you're watching this, we have the opportunity to really do stuff, get stuff done. And so we want to be in control. We want to be able to organize and coordinate things. And sometimes we can get into a little bit of perfectionism with those things because we want it to be perfect. And when I was younger, I didn't see anything wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I mentioned it to someone that I know whose personality is a little similar to mine in some ways. And they looked at me like I had two heads because they can't imagine not trying to be perfect. And I understand that. I understand that. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of this thing, you'll understand, if you go back and listen to those episodes from season 3, you'll understand why it is so important not to overlook this topic of why perfectionism is not good for you, why it's not healthy for you. So if you're looking at me like I have two heads because I said perfectionism is not good for you, trying to be perfect all the time is not good for you, you definitely need to go and listen to previous episodes so that you'll have perspective about what I'm talking about and not be confused about the perspective for this show. So, to be blunt, the premise of this show, Plant Your Seeds of Transformation, is that we want to make sure that you are able to get away from unhealthy, toxic ways of thinking and get yourself in position to be better for yourself, be a better person for yourself, so you can be healthier and so you can make better choices that will affect you and everybody that you're around. When you are operating in a perfectionistic mode, it creates an opportunity for people to start to hate you. When you're too much of a perfectionist, sometimes that can alienate you. And you may think, oh, whatever, that's on them. But when it's your family, do you want your family to hate you? No. So that was one of the things that kind of pushed me towards really looking into this topic further and working on myself more in this area because I recognize the negative impact of my perfectionism on the people I love. And so that's what got me kind of looking into it. So I'm not going to share a lot about perfectionism. I'm just kind of laying a foundation so you know what we've been talking about on Plant Your Seeds of Transformation. What is planting your seeds of transformation all about? What that means is that you take action for your life change. You take action, but action doesn't yield immediate results. It's a planting. You plant a seed, the seed goes through a process to germinate and to sprout and to grow and mature. Transformation takes time, yes, and it's not immediate. And it's also not by mistake. The difference between a garden and a forest is that a garden is intentional versus a forest is just wild. It's just there. Just what happens, happens for the most part. I'm sure there's somebody in the world that's cultivating forests on purpose. But for the most part, the forest, the jungle, they are wild places because generally speaking, an individual person is not going in and creating and cultivating things there. Generally speaking, things just happen there. But in your own life, do you want things to just keep happening? Is that what you want for yourself? Think about it. Is that what you want for yourself? Is that what you've already had? Have things just been happening? Has life just been happening? I used to say that all the time. Oh, life is just happening. And then I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I am so tired of life just happening. There has got to be something different than this. And I started learning about how to be intentional for my own transformation, how to plant my garden for myself. I can't change the people around me. I can only change me. And I can either choose to change me on purpose or just let life happen to cause changes in me and for me and through me and around me and whatever. I decided I wanted to take some authority here and start planting my own seeds of transformation. One of the main things that was a catalyst for me with this was the death of my father. My dad was a former caregiver. And after he finished caregiving for his loved one who went through 2 rounds of cancer treatment, within 2 years, he was dead because he was not paying attention to his own health, being so busy and worried about his loved one's health. And so that really, I felt like that was a huge lesson for me to learn from his life and his death. And I felt that it was important for me to really take that seriously because I am also a caregiver. Now I'm a caregiver on a different level. I'm a caregiver to someone who has a chronic mental illness and they had been in crisis, which is why I hadn't been online very much. And they needed my help, intense help. So that's what we're doing. But I'm also a caregiver to someone else who is under 24-hour care in a facility. So this is my life. And part of why I haven't wanted to get on video and talk about it was because I thought, man, this is just depressing. Nobody wants to hear all of the drama and trauma and crises that I'm going through. But I made a decision that I'm going to let God use me whatever way He wants to use me, tell my story, and let Him decide who He needs to hear it and help. And I'll do my job to get this out there. And I'll trust Him to do His job to get this to the ears of those who need this encouragement. So, going back to what I was saying, the catalyst for me deciding that I want to take authority over what's happening in my life, despite the fact that crises and trauma are happening, I don't have control over, I still have control of some things. I can plant my own seeds of transformation. I decided my life is a garden. My life is not just some wild forest and stuff just happens all the time. And the catalyst was the death of my father. I decided that I'm taking the steps to take better care of myself, not just physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and all otherwise. I am planting the seeds that I need to plant to see my own transformation. And this transformation process is not just about what I look like to other people. So, for instance, losing weight. My transformation is not about me losing weight. My transformation is about being the best person God has made me to be. And as I continue to transform inside, it will manifest outside. I hope somebody heard that. The transformation happens inside. And as who you are transforms, what's going on the outside will be affected. What people are seeing about you, on you, through you, for you, it will be impacted by your inner transformation. But it takes strength, courage, and some help to do that. So I am very blessed to have a support system that I did not have back in 2018 when my husband first became fully disabled. I didn't have the support system that I have now. And I'm very grateful. I feel that God has helped me to cultivate the community around me so that I have what I need, not what I thought I needed, but what I actually need, who I actually need, that is supportive of my journey through all of these difficult things. And yeah, and that's one of the big things that I've talked about on the podcast too, is the importance of community. A lot of times people allow themselves to get isolated, especially when people are in crisis and in trauma. They don't feel good about themselves or about their situation or about their family or whatever, and they just close in on themselves because it doesn't feel good. I get that. I've done that. I won't lie. I definitely have done that, especially this year. I started kind of doing that and I had to snap myself out of that and start finding ways to connect in ways that felt good for me, that felt nurturing and helpful for me. And that has been helpful. But back in 2018, when my husband first became disabled, I was terrified. I did not have the support I needed. I was looking for it. Like I said, now I do. So I started looking and I started finding support. And I know for sure the community that I've cultivated is still being shaped. And I'm grateful. So what I've said to you so far is this: A, planting your seeds of transformation. That means that you are intentionally creating the life that you want for yourself. But two, that transformation starts inside first. So you're learning and you're growing inside. You're changing who you are so that you're being your best self inside. And as you're doing that, the outside starts to be transformed, but also that process happens with the help and support of community. Now, when I say community, I don't just mean church or an organization. Sometimes people have a very narrow view of what community can be. Community can be whoever you need, whatever that looks like for you. So when I say community, I also, for me, I'm referring to therapists and coaches. These are people that are paid money to help me. Therapists for dealing with the past, recovering from trauma, and dealing with, and not just the past, but even dealing with current crisis. My therapist has helped me with processing through helping my family member that has been dealing with mental illness. This has been extremely, extremely difficult for me and for my family. And so having that support from a therapist every single week has been an extremely important part of my community that I've been cultivating for myself with God's help. I've also shared with you all about co-working when it comes to me being able to, okay, let me backtrack. When your mind is a little tweaked because of all the crisis and trauma you've been dealing with, sometimes it can be extremely difficult to focus to get stuff done. And so I shared with you all how I helped to cultivate a community that does co-working. I was a member of this community and I helped them to get that going. And so this community has become just a part of my heart. This co-working community has just become a part of my heart. These women have become my friends. So I have let you all know about this in past videos. I'm not going to go over it again, but that's just one part of community that I wanted to share with you. Okay, now, so we talked about plant your seeds of transformation is about intentionally changing and transforming inside from the inside out. And you do that transformation with help. So another part of my community, I said therapists already. I talked about co-working, also coaches and mentors. Now, coaches, generally speaking, they're going to be paid people and they help you with specific goals. So I've had some of those. I will always have coaches that help me with specific things. And I'm grateful to be able to hire those types of folks to help me. But also, mentors are part of my community. Sometimes my mentors are my books and my videos, my audiobooks. My videos I watch on YouTube, my audiobooks. Sometimes mentors don't have to sit down in front of me, but I can learn from them and get help from them just as well with their books, their videos, their audiobooks, whatever form that I need to receive from them. That's great for me. And that has been a huge help for me. But some of my mentors are in-person mentors. And part of these mentors are people from my past whose voices I still hear in my head. One of them was a professor I had in college. She was my mentor. She was literally my mentor throughout my college years. And one of the things that she said to me that I will never forget and that impacted me while I was in school, and it still impacts me now. So I would go to her with a complaint about something I could see that wasn't working well. And she would look at me and say, "So what are you going to do about that?" Simple question. Made a huge impact on me then. It still resonates in my heart and mind now. It makes an impact on me now. That said, I've got some other things that I have a dream and vision to fix how, not to fix, but to contribute and help with how mental health care support is provided for patients after they're released from the hospital so that they can avoid homelessness. And so that's something that one of our family members had dealt with this year and last year. That was a big crisis for our family, homelessness. And that is not anything I wish on my worst enemy. When you have somebody who has a mental health illness and they're not getting proper care by their own choice or not, and they end up homeless and in a cycle of homelessness, it's heartbreaking to watch that. And I know many families have been through that. So I've shared some about some of this on my personal Instagram, and I'll continue to do so because I want to encourage people who may have a hard time talking about these things. This is hard to talk about. I didn't really want to share about these things, but I made a decision that I will share because I believe it can help someone else. So, what I was referring to about my mentor who asked me, what are you going to do about that when I complained about something I saw that wasn't right or that I feel wasn't just or wasn't right or needed to be better? So, when I was complaining about the mental health care system where I live in Georgia, I heard a voice in my head. What are you going to do about that, Donna? And so I've got some thoughts, some dreams, some vision regarding that. And once I know more, I'll be able to share more. In the meantime, we're dealing with our own family challenges that we've stepped up for to provide support in the best ways we can we're providing support with support. So we know we can't solve the problem on our own. We're clueless, but with God's help and with the people he's sending our way, psychiatrists, programs, things like that, we're able to get support till we can support our loved one. So very grateful for that. Again, part of community. Community sometimes includes medical care or mental health care, which is medical. It also, of course, includes spiritual, in addition to therapy, church, and studying the word on my own. Those are important for me too. Still looking for a church home. I am not going to just jump up and just go somewhere just because it's 5 minutes from my house. And I do like watching online, but I feel a pull towards finding a local church community to plug in with. So that's part of my community building for 2023. I believe that because I've been looking for a while now, but I believe that this year we will find a place where our family can go together. And that's part of our plan to support our family member too. So community for you may not look like that. I don't know who you are or what's important to you, but I'm just giving you examples from my life of ways that I've incorporated community into supporting me with my process of transformation. Now, when something doesn't feel good, that's also part of my process of transformation. I've learned when to pull back from people, places, or things that don't serve me well. In the past, I would just be so numb that I wouldn't think about what something somebody said, how that felt for me, or something somebody did, how that felt for me, or how a place or a thing made me feel. I would just white knuckle it, and never really critically think about things. I just can't do that anymore. And I shared in one of my personal videos, if I'm around a person that just wants to be fake and phony and I can't be real with them, I don't care if this person is a neighbor walking down the street or a churchgoer talking to me, at the church, or a person that I work with. I can't do it, y'all. I just can't do it. And so I've just made I've just made a decision, and I'm still making choices to pull away from environments like that where it's fake and phony. And I just feel in my heart, I don't need to be there. So that's been part of my process too for looking for a new church home. I have to make sure that I listen to myself. And so that's another part of the transformation, being part of your own support system. So sometimes we're so busy, and this is a big issue, and you'll hear this talked about in past episodes. Black women leaders, we get so doggone busy trying to make everything perfect. We don't take the time we need to just listen to ourselves. And that's how stuff just winds up just happening around us or in our lives because we're not trusting ourselves. And part of us not trusting ourselves is because we're just too freaking busy trying to do everything and control everything. We can't listen to ourselves. And when I say listen to ourselves, I mean listening to God in you. I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus, Father God, and the Holy Spirit, the triune God. And I believe that the Holy Spirit lives in Jesus's people. And I believe that as the Holy Spirit lives in Jesus's people, the Godhead, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, they talk to us when they live in us. But sometimes we can't hear because we're so busy talking ourselves. We want to shut up. That's one thing. Sometimes we just talk too much and we just need to hush and sit down somewhere and get a journal out. And I talked about this in previous episodes. Get a journal out, write down the thoughts, even if it's a weird thought, just write it down. Throw it out later if you need to, but write it down. But if it's good thoughts, save that journal. Make you some money later. You never know, right? So take the time to just sit down and be still and be quiet. Sometimes that's hard, especially now, because we've got the TVs going or whatever it is that's your most common distraction. Sometimes we just need to sit down and be still. So the process of sitting down and being still, sometimes that can look like prayer, but sometimes it needs to look different than just prayer because sometimes people are so bogged down emotionally. Maybe even they have not really received good teaching about prayer. And so they're confused about it. Sometimes prayer might look a little different for you. Maybe prayer needs to look like writing down your thoughts. Maybe. Maybe prayer needs to look like reading a prayer book. There are people who've got some good books out there, and sometimes even YouTube channels and podcasts and things that will teach you prayer in a way that makes sense for you. Sometimes sitting down and being quiet looks like saying no to your children participating in 50,000 events and clubs and other extracurricular stuff. Sometimes you got to say no to get your peace that you need so you can just sit and be quiet. And I'm speaking to myself too. I want to be supportive and say yes to everything for my kids, but I just can't. I just can't. And so that is hard for me. Me being a single mother and the only driver in my home, I cannot do everything. Wish I could. It's just not possible. So that means that I have to look at things a little closer and think about things a little bit more and say no, a little bit more strategically. So I'm working on that. I have a 17-year-old who's in her junior year and she is involved in so much stuff and she's working. So this is something that I've been trying to help her with understanding about not trying to do too much, focusing on the thing that you love the most and sticking with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think she really heard me. So we're gonna have to revisit this conversation. All right, so where are we at? I want to make sure that I share about this more on a different episode, because we're already at like 40 minutes. And I feel like we've only kind of scratched the surface of what I really wanted to share with you. But I wanted to at least lay the foundation of what is Plant Your Seeds of Transformation about? What have we talked about previously? And what we're talking about now is what I've learned by dealing with so much crisis and trauma. I think I've already shared a lot of that. I've learned how to intentionally plant my seeds of transformation so that the heartbreak from dealing with these crises and this trauma don't kill me. That's my basic goal. I told you that I felt like I learned from my father's death to take care of myself as a caregiver, to pay more attention. That's the basic premise of the goal is I'm not going to let all this stuff kill me, stress me out, and get me gone before my time. But if I was still walking around being a perfectionistic hot mess, all this stuff would definitely kill me. And so dealing with these crises and traumas has helped to solidify what I've been talking to you all about for the past 2 years, actually since 2022. No, since 2021. I've been talking to you all about this since 2021. The crises and trauma that I have been going through, the compounded things, because it's not just one thing, it's thing after thing. Okay. There's a lot of different stuff. These things have helped to solidify what I have been sharing with you all. They've helped me to kind of go through a bit of a furnace, purification by fire or whatever. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not using that phrase to say that I feel that I'm perfect. I'm definitely not. What I'm saying is that it's a bit of a crucible to help concentrate me down a little bit. You know how if you cook a sauce and you cook off some of the liquid, it becomes thicker, more concentrated. That's what I feel like these compound crises and traumas have been doing for me. They've helped to cook off some of the liquid and concentrate me down more and help me realize just how important what I've been talking to you all about is for specifically for Black women leaders who are going through crises and trauma. And I'm talking plural. I am not the only one. I know I'm not the only Black woman leader who just has compounded crises and trauma. I know women who are dealing with marital situations that aren't good, and their own health is compromised. I know women who have parents who are dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's, and they're having to caregive. I know women who are dealing with their own health issues and having to caregive for a parent. I know women who have been through major trauma and crises with people that should have cared for them and helped them, and now they have to care for these people. This is tough stuff, y'all. This is tough stuff. And if you're going to walk around and be a perfectionist, dealing with this kind of stuff, it can kill you. There's no way you can control everything or make everything perfect. So my goal is to help you protect your own life by learning to understand these things better so you can cultivate your life, make your life the best it can be for today. You can't fix tomorrow. You can try to prepare a little, but tomorrow's going to deal with its own self. There's going to be some monkey wrenches, okay? Stuff's going to happen, right? You cannot control everything for the future and you can't change the past. So right now, though, today, you can do your best today. You can plant your seeds for your own transformation today, starting by changing your mindset about some things, getting those changes into your heart and not just your head, getting those mindset changes into your heart, not just your head, so you can transform from the inside out. It's not going to happen if it's just a whole bunch of head knowledge. You can read all the books you want. You can listen to all the podcasts and watch all the videos you want, but until you have a true heart change, none of what I'm talking to you about will ever help you. And that's just the truth. So my hope and my prayer for those of you who have found this video is that A, you take some time for yourself to just think, get clear. A lot of what happens, and I truly believe there is an enemy of your soul, even if other people aren't trying to traumatize you, hurt you, cause you problems. There's an enemy of your soul who is constantly looking for ways to keep you distracted so you won't trust yourself and won't listen to yourself. So, my main thing I'm asking you to do today is just find ways to take some time for yourself so you can just listen. Listen to your heart. And when I say your heart, for me, that means I am connected to my higher power, and I believe that he speaks to my heart. But if I am too busy, I don't hear him clearly. And so I have to make myself sit down and get quiet so I can hear. So that's the crux of what we're talking about today. What I learned from these compound crises and traumas in 2023. This is just the start of my sharing. I may or may not have guests on this season. I have not had a lot of time to do the work it takes to get guests on. So I'm not going to promise I'll have guests. I might. But I do plan to continue to do these as live episodes. And I'll do a better job of announcing these live episodes or trying to create some kind of schedule. But right now, this is what we have. I'm here now. I'm sharing now. We've got this first podcast episode here. I pray that this has been a blessing to you. Please feel free to leave a comment on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And hopefully, we'll be able to connect and I can answer questions if you have questions that are relevant for this topic. And of course, again, take a look at plantyourseeds.show to see previous episodes or just reach out to me at coachdonnamarie.com. God bless you. Bye-bye.